I now give the floor to the representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who will speak on behalf of the Caribbean community and also introduce our featured speaker.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the 14 member states of the Caribbean community, CARICOM. One of the greatest artists of our Caribbean civilization, the late Robert Nesta Marley, once sang in his song Slave Driver that, and I quote, "Every time I hear the crack of a whip, my blood runs cold. I remember on the slave ship how they brutalized my very soul," unquote. It is that brutalization that brings us together in this International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. For as Bob Marley makes clear, the slave ship was beyond an indignity. It was beyond barbarism. It was beyond inhuman. It was, apart from the physical atrocities, a brutalization of the psyche of a people so violent and enduring that it has created a shared cultural memory of the trauma, a collective memory that lives so vividly in the souls of those who have died that it is bequeathed to those of us who live today and to those yet unborn. For the CARICOM member states at the United Nations, it is a scar that is 14 countries wide and 400 years deep. For the world, it remains a festering sore on the conscience of humanity. This scar on our Caribbean soul remains to this day a noise in our blood and an echo in our bones. It is given voice and flesh every day through our cultural expressions, each of which is shaped and informed by this peculiar legacy. You hear it in the words we speak and our songs of struggle and freedom. You see it in the way we dress and the way we move. You taste it in the foods we eat. You recognize it in the similarities and surviving traditions between our brothers and sisters on the African continent and their violently uprooted kin. You feel it in a Caribbean civilization that instinctively and comprehensively rejects oppression, subjugation, and exploitation, even as the descendants of enslaved Africans, slave masters, and indentured laborers have managed to miraculously and triumphantly craft a peaceful and harmonious societal fabric from the disparate threads of brutality, misery, and rebellion. As the theme of this year's remembrance activities recognizes, our vibrant culture in and of itself is an eloquent expression of our hard-won freedom. Mr. President, CARICOM member states are grateful for our continuing partnership with the African Union, with the wider UN membership and the UN Secretariat, particularly the Department of Public Information, for their support of this annual recognition and honor of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. Today's decision, just taken, A/64L50, represents the strength of the global consensus regarding the importance of this International Day of Remembrance. Similarly, CARICOM wishes to highlight the central importance of Resolution 64/15, which welcomes CARICOM's initiative to erect at a place of prominence at the United Nations headquarters a permanent memorial in acknowledgement of the tragedy and in consideration of the legacy of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. The central importance of this initiative to CARICOM cannot be overstated. We encourage member states to assist in the construction of the permanent memorial through contributions to the Trust Fund for the Permanent Memorial, which is administered by the United Nations Office for Partnerships. We are most grateful to states that have already contributed to the fund, and especially thankful to those that have made multiple pledges and contributions. In that regard, CARICOM offers special commendations to the government and people of India, who have demonstrated noteworthy and particular generosity in their support of this effort. Mr. President, the slave ship and the systematic and abhorrent exploitation that it represents can never be forgotten. Today, we honor the memory of the victims of the slave trade, those who perished on the journey, and those black survivors who triumphed over unimaginable adversity to shape new independent nations of free men and women. We pay special tribute this year to Haiti, the first nation to break the shackles of subjugation and the enduring seat of our Caribbean strength and pride. As our Haitian brothers and sisters confront the catastrophe of recent earthquakes, we have no doubt that with the help of the international community, they will triumph, as they have triumphed over all prior adversities. We in CARICOM also salute the memory of the indigenous peoples of our region, the Arawak, the Kalinago, and the Garifuna inhabitants, whose tales of extermination through disease and genocide are also entwined with our own redemption song. Mr. President, according to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's statement today, and I quote, "Those who control the transatlantic slave trade made huge profits from death, misery, and exploitation," unquote. Their profit was our tragic loss, both on the African continent and throughout its far-flung diaspora. That loss is a debt that remains unpaid on humanity's ledger book. Today's events and future remembrances represents the tiniest of down payments on this historical debt. This day also stands as a rebuke to those who profited, those who ignored, and those who justified the horrors of slavery and the slave trade. Today, Mr. President, we honor, we remember, and we shall never forget. Mr. President, with your leave, it would also be my distinct honor and pleasure on behalf of CARICOM to introduce the keynote speaker for this special commemorative event, Dr. Barrymore Anthony Bogues. To do justice to Dr. Bogues' impressive and extensive experience would require far more time than is allocated to me today. With apologies to Dr. Bogues for the necessary brevity, please allow me to sketch some of his tremendous accomplishments in academics, politics, and culture. Dr. Bogues is a professor of Africana Studies at Brown University in Rhode Island, where he has taught since 1999. Professor Bogues has also lectured at Howard University in Washington, D.C., the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, Dartmouth College, and the University of Cape Town, South Africa, where he is now an honorary research professor. Professor Bogues' scholarship operates at the intersections of political theory, intellectual history, cultural studies, literary theory, and philosophy, and he has found this intersection to be a busy one indeed. He has authored 4 books, with another 4 soon to be published. He has written scores of articles in scholarly journals and made over 100 distinguished lectures and presentations to special conferences, including lectures on slavery, abolition, and post-colonial societies. Dr. Bogues, who was a special assistant to former Jamaican Prime Minister Michael Manley, is the recipient of countless awards for scholarship and instruction, including the Brown University Presidential Citation, the Royce Family Professor of Teaching Excellence, the Mid-Atlantic Writers Distinguished Writer Award, to name but a few. It is also appropriate, given Dr. Bogues' extensive scholarship in the areas of Caribbean culture, particularly music, and his work in visual media, that he is with us today as we express our freedom through culture. Mr. President, without any further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Tony Bogues.
Representative of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for his statement on behalf of the CARICOM community and for his introduction of our featured speaker. In accordance